and welcome back to the channel. It's true, my name is Norf, and you'll note this week we're a little bit close in. Quick, come this way. Quick, come on in. This week I want to talk about combinations. One specific combination, the Sony a6400 mirrorless camera and my espresso cup. What am I talking about? It's not an espresso cup. This, as I'm sure you're aware, is the Sigma 16mm F1.4. So let's talk about the combination of this as well as the Sony a6400. So, as is customary, if you're ready, let's get started. A viewer on my channel did ask me specifically, Norf, could you do a camera and lens review? So I'm going to do that from my perspective. And in this week's video, we're going to talk about this. I'd love to call it an espresso cup or a coffee cup, but it's not. It's about that sort of size. But this is the Sigma 16mm F1.4, and this is the lens that spends 95% of its time on my Sony a6400. In this video, I'm going to take you through some of the things that I absolutely love about the Sigma 16mm f1.4 lens. Then right at the end, I have one tiny little gripe that I really don't like. This week, Sony released its ZV-E10 vlogging camera, which looks absolutely superb. There are some great reviews that you'll find on YouTube. One from a great guy called Dummer Did It does an outstanding review of that camera. Though the harsh reality for me is that I can't be that early adopter. So when it comes to the technology adoption curve, because I've got a family of 4 small people, well, to be fair, they're not small anymore, but because I'm funding my family, I'm not able to be one of those early adopters. I also don't want to suffer from gas. Nobody likes to suffer from gas. And just before you say it, I mean gear acquisition syndrome. I don't know what you thought. So as I say, I can't be an early adopter. But what I can be is part of the early majority or part of the late majority. And there are some bargains to be had if you are in one of those two groups. If you consider what I did last October when I started my YouTube channel, a little bit before that, that's where I purchased my Sony a6400 mirrorless camera, and I picked up my coffee cup. It's not really a coffee cup. This is a fine piece of glass. And also funding a family of 6, I'm gonna have to say the B word. Budget does factor in. Which is why I can't be or can't really justify being an early adopter. You know the phrase buy cheap, buy twice? Well, the Sigma 16mm f1.4 is not necessarily the cheapest prime lens that is out there. But for me, this really does capture a huge bang for buck. This lens is a prime lens, and as I say, it spends 95% of its time on the body of my a6400. The pairing of those two together really is a superb combo. For all the still images that I've captured using this combination, for also the video that I've captured using this combination, they really are superb. Now you've got to spend a little bit of time to understand your camera, to understand the lens, and to set it all up. But once it's set up and you're out of the gate, oh my, there'll be no stopping you. If you're in the market to pick up a new prime lens, I would seriously consider the Sigma 16mm f1.4, either for the Sony E-mount system or for the Canon system. It really is a very high quality, well-crafted lens. The Sigma 16mm f1.4 contemporary lens for the Sony E-mount system is a beautifully well-crafted, high-quality prime lens. The semi-gloss and matte black finish that Sigma have provided on the lens really does make it look very elegant. Its main construction is of metal, so it has a really good quality weight to it. And all of this together only weighs 405 grams. Like most other lenses, the Sigma 16mm f1.4 uses Sony's focus-by-wire system, meaning that the lens has to be powered for it to be in operation. And once powered, the 9 aperture blades internal to the lens are then sprung into life. The feel of the semi-rubberized focus ring feels really good. And as you operate the focus ring, you encounter a little bit of resistance, which gives you some great insights into how Sigma have constructed this prime lens. This lens is super fast, very quiet, and is extremely sharp. And let's face it, if Sigma made coffee, it would be an absolute belter. A must-have accessory when using the Sigma 16mm F1.4 or any lens for that matter when you're outside is to use an ND filter, a neutral density filter. A neutral density filter is simply like putting on sunglasses for your lenses, and because the ND filter that I'm using is variable, I can then vary the amount of light that comes into the lens. If I can reduce the amount of light coming in or stop down the amount of light coming in, I can then leverage the beautiful 1.4 aperture that the Sigma 16mm boasts. The lens thread on the Sigma 16mm F1.4 is 67mm, and the variable ND filter that I have from Hoya is 72mm, which means there's a bit of a difference. And rather than buying another expensive variable ND filter that is 67mm, I've gone down this route, which is to purchase a step-up ring. This means that I can use my Hoya 72mm variable ND filter on my Sigma 16mm f1.4 as well as my Sony 18-105mm f4. You'll know that the tight spot that I work in is approximately 6x6 or about 1.8 meters by 1.8 meters. And currently on my A6400 is my Sigma 30mm f1.4. And you can't really see a lot of what's going on in my space. And this is why 95% of the time my Sigma 16mm f1.4 stays on my camera. So let me do a quick switch and you can compare the difference between the two. And this is the Sigma 16mm f1.4. I've not moved the position of the camera. It's in exactly the same place where it was when the Sigma 30mm f1.4 was on my A6400 camera body. You shouldn't really be seeing any of this stuff here, really, should you? So let me just do a quick reposition. There you go. This is much more akin to what you're used to, right? A much, much wider shot can be picked up by using the Sigma 16mm f1.4. It really is a beautiful lens, particularly if you're recording at a very small space, just like I am. And because I've got that aperture open nice and wide to f1.4, you get that beautiful bokeh drop off where it starts to fade not too far behind me. So if you are in a small space, you really do want to consider the Sigma 16mm f1.4. It is still relevant for 2021. And I can see it being relevant for much, much longer. As mentioned right at the beginning of this video, I have one tiny little gripe with this lens, and it is simply the fact it doesn't have optical stabilization built into the lens. However, in no way, shape or form is that a deal breaker. If you're caught short and you don't have a tripod or a gimbal, there are a couple of things that you can do if you're planning to use this lens freehand, and I use these techniques whenever I want to use this combination. You may know that the Sony A6400 doesn't come with built-in image stabilization, and as such, my image will be subject to capturing any human microjitters. One thing I can do is pin my elbows to the side of my body. That simple action reduces any microjitters. The other thing I can do is use a camera strap, and if you recall any of your physics lessons, with the camera held fast in 3 places, most of my human microjitters will be removed. And if I want to smooth out my shot any further, I can use the warp stabilizer feature inside Adobe's Premiere Pro. And that's it for this week. Thank you so much for choosing to spend your time here. Remember, if you do have this lens or you're thinking about getting this lens, do drop a comment and let me know. As you know, I'm a huge fan of the number 3, so if you would, please do 3 things for me. If you like the content, please do give me a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you're not yet subscribed, and also hit the bell notification so you don't miss out on when I upload brand new content to the channel. Again, thank you for choosing to spend your time here, and I'll see you next time.